You're listening to As the World Burns, a short podcast series that dives into the fire beneath the pages of Of Mice and Men. We're taking a hard look at the loneliness, broken dreams, and deep injustices that shaped Steinbeck's world and still echo in ours today. What does it mean to be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone? In the world of Mice and Men, loneliness isn't just an emotion, it's a way of life. On ranches built on survival and silence, no one gets too close. In this episode, we'll look at the crushing weight of isolation during the Great Depression, and the quiet desperation that connects characters like Crooks, Candy, and Curly's wife. Because sometimes it's not just the world that's burning, it's the space between us. The world Steinbeck paints is one of aching isolation. Every major character is, in one way or another, cut off from friendship, from understanding, from any real sense of belonging. Take Georgie and Lenny. They travel together, they talk, they dream. But even that companionship is fragile, always under threat. George knows it. He says, quote, "Guys like us are the loneliest guys in the world." Crooks, a black stable hand, lives in forced segregation, alone in a tiny room beside the animals. He's bitter. But not just because of racism, he's bitter because he's utterly alone. Candy, an aging ranch hand, has lost his hand, and his only friend, a dog he raised from a pup. He clings to George and Lenny's dream, not because he believes in it, but because it's the first time someone's included him. And then there's Curly's wife. Nameless, voiceless, seen by the men not as a person, but as trouble. She wanders the ranch like a ghost, hungry for attention, desperate for conversation, and completely misunderstood. This isn't just fiction. It's a reflection of real life in 1930s America. The Great Depression left millions homeless, jobless, and broken. Men like George and Lenny drifted from farm to farm, working for $1 a day, sleeping in barns, never staying long enough to make any real connections. Loneliness wasn't just emotional. It was built straight into the system. If you were black, like Crooks, you were segregated, by law, by bunkhouse, by society. If you were a woman, you were often treated as decoration, or a danger. If you were old, like Candy, you were simply discarded. You weren't useful anymore. And if you were disabled, like Lenny, you weren't protected. You were feared, or pitied, or killed. Steinbeck doesn't sugarcoat any of this. He doesn't offer easy answers. He just holds up a mirror to the brutal truth. Loneliness was a way of life, and for many, a death sentence. So why does Steinbeck focus so much on loneliness? Because he knew that it wasn't just personal, it was political. He shows us how systems of power, racism, ableism, sexism, classism, divide people, keep them afraid, keep them apart. Even George and Lenny, the closest bond in the book, are torn apart by a world that simply won't allow someone like Lenny to exist peacefully. And in the end, the one thing that George had that made life bearable is gone. And the silence that follows says everything. Nearly a century later, loneliness still burns. We live in a world filled with digital noise and emotional distance. People are still isolated by poverty, by disability, by racism, by social structures that divide us. Of Mice and Men isn't just a story about 1930s America. It's a warning, and maybe a reminder to slow down, to look around, and to see the people we often overlook. Thank you for listening to this episode of As the World Burns. Next time, we will talk about the American dream and what happens when it becomes a nightmare. Until then, remember, loneliness is quiet, but it burns just the same.